Hello, everybody, and welcome to my presentation. I'm Adam Farley, and I'm going to be telling you today 5 ways to make the OpenJDK community hate you. And there's me. Isn't he a handsome devil? My company is IBM. I'm currently working in the OpenJDK team. What we do mainly is working on contributing fixes and new features to OpenJDK, and also putting some work into the code that makes OpenJ9 work just a little bit better with OpenJDK every day. This presentation, we're going to be covering OpenJDK. We're going to be covering the 5 biggest mistakes I've either seen other people make or made myself. We're going to be covering the consequences of those mistakes, the motivations people have had for making them, and some advice on how to avoid those problems. What is OpenJDK? OpenJDK, as some of you already know, it's open source Java. It's an open source community which manages the open source Java development kit project. So if you want to build your own Java direct from the source, you go to OpenJDK, you clone their material, and you just rattle through the build instructions. Now, if you want to put your code into OpenJDK, there are 2 main roles, contributors and committers. Now, the contributors are the people who, well, that's anyone. Anyone can go along to OpenJDK, sign the Oracle contributor agreement, and just throw new code at them to fix bugs or add new features. The committers are the people who can approve that new code and actually put it into the code base. Now, this is a negotiation process. You've got to convince them that your code is right for them. And this negotiation process, it's a bit of a social skill. It's a soft skill, so it's you can encounter problems. And the first problem, proposing large changes as a newbie. You get people who try and rewrite the entire VM, people who try and change all the return codes. So they've shown up there day 1, and they're trying to just rebuild everything from the ground up. Undoing modularity is a popular one. It never gets further than the first couple of emails, because the answer is always no. In fact, the answer to all of these would be no, because it undoes a lot of hard work that the community has done. You haven't gathered buy-in in advance, so no one's motivated to accept your changes. And you're new, so you might not have their respect. You definitely don't have their trust already, and they're not going to gamble the entire project on this new person knowing what's right for the community. Why do people make these mistakes? Sometimes people want to fix bugs. Other times people just want to add new feature. Sometimes it's you want to go in, you want to make a big splash on your first day. If you want to fix a bug, sometimes a better solution than simply showing up with a big old change is to show up with the bug. Because the people out there in the community, they've solved a lot of problems like your problem. So if you approach them with the problem rather than your solution, then they're more likely to cooperate in accepting whatever code gets generated as a result because they've had a say in it, than just accepting a big chunk of new code. The same with the new feature. They need to have buy-in. They need to have a say in how it's created. And making a splash, some of the most well-known developers in the OpenJDK community didn't show up on their first day and make a splash. Okay, one of them showed up on the first day and made a splash. Most of them don't. And a lot of the more well-known and respected ones are respected because they solve problems every day. So instead of one big thing, they solve little problems. So they help people along, they include people in the decision-making process, and it's continuous effort rather than one big kaboom. Okay, the second big mistake I've seen people make is expecting the community to write all the code. You get people who demand fixes for bugs. They might demand fixes for shared bugs that they and their friends have seen. Or they might even just demand new features. And demand is the word. You get people showing up with a lot of arrogance, insisting the community needs to do this work for them. And the answer, of course, will be no, because it's arrogant and because they're already very busy. It still doesn't stop people doing it. I still see this. So why do people do this? Sometimes people demand the community fix a thing for them because they don't understand the bug. If you ask the community, how does this bug work, then they'll help you to understand it. There are Java forums online, there are user groups, there are IRC channels listed on OpenJDK, and they will help you understand it. But if you go in and just demand they fix it for you without you doing the work, that's not going to work. Sometimes people don't have time to fix a bug, so they want other people to do the work on their behalf. There's no real way around not having the time to fix a bug, but if it's a big enough problem, then sometimes you can make progress just by showing respect to the people in the community. A lot of these people, they do this in their spare time. So it's 8, 9 o'clock in the evening, they've come home from a long day, they want to help some people out, and they've got you on their front doorstep. You need to give them the credit and respect that they're due. Otherwise, only the most kind-hearted of souls is going to help you. And lastly, they're lazy. Sometimes people are lazy. They want the community to fix something that they can't be bothered to fix themselves. There are two main ways around this. The first way is to put in the effort, and the second way is to pay someone to put in the effort for you. Their way is the only way. The OpenJDK community is big on tweaking changes. Whether it's a massive change of pages of code or whether it's a one-word change, they will always have an opinion on it and they will always want to try and tweak it. Sometimes, but if you go in there and you have a bit of code and you don't want the community to tweak your code, then they're not going to have any buy-in in the code to be contributed in the end, and that's not going to get contributed. So sometimes you have people who have a bug fix but won't describe the bug. Sometimes you have people that have a bug and a fix, but they insist it can't be modified for whatever reason. And sometimes people propose a very specific feature and won't modify even one line of code, like they're married to it. If you have a bug fix but won't describe the bug, they won't accept that fix because they don't know if you're solving the right problem or if you're solving it in the right way. And that could cause other problems for them down the line because you'd just be contributing code after code after code, and they have absolutely no idea. You could be shooting in the dark for all they know. You have a bug plus a fix that cannot be modified. Same with C, when you have a specific feature and won't modify it. Debate is key in the OpenJDK community. They always want to change things. They always want to tweak it. They always want to add their little signature to the bottom. And if you aren't up for that, then your code will not go through. Why do people do this? Sometimes people have unspoken requirements. You go in insisting your code needs to be accepted as is because of some ethereal, unspoken thing, and the community just doesn't know about it. The best way to get past that is to spell it out, bullet points. And the same with lack of experience. If the community doesn't know the technology that you're using, or the technology you're trying to plug into Java, or the other way around, maybe they don't know the stuff that you know, and that's why they don't understand you when you're saying that a change cannot be modified. So the best way to get around that, again, is to spell it out. They're not stupid people. They're very intelligent people, but you do need to break it down if they're unfamiliar with the technology. And then there's overconfidence. Some people don't like to accept that their way may not be the best way, and even if their way is the best way, if the community isn't prepared to accept it, then the best fix that doesn't get accepted is a bad fix. So sometimes you just need to show a little humility and accept that sometimes, maybe if you accept the community's proposed fix, which is a little different than yours, it might not solve your problem altogether, but a partial win is still better than a complete loss. Insulting people. And people do this. Yes, they do. And there is not an effective censor on the mailing lists. So you do occasionally see this get through, and it can be quite colorful. You get swearing, you get people commenting on other people's personal attributes, you get denigrating community members, you get people slagging off other people's, you get people slagging off everything from games to nationalities to color, creed. It can be a hot pot sometimes. But then again, that could be said of any community, really. Why do people do this? Sometimes people get angry. I can't tell you how not to be angry. Sometimes people find going for a stroll in the countryside, hitting the gym for a few minutes. If you find yourself getting worked up, that can affect what you're writing, how you're responding to things in very subtle ways. And often the best way to solve that is to just take a minute out and don't let it control what you're writing. Cultural differences, if you see there's a cultural difference happening, if you just talk it out with the people on the receiving end, whichever side you're on, then that can be, it can actually be surprisingly easy to resolve. You just need to show that you're a reasonable person. If you're on the receiving end, that you haven't taken offense. If you're on the giving end, that you are prepared to receive that negative feedback, and then you can move forward and hopefully not make that mistake in the future. And again, we're back to people being married to their code. Losing the argument. If you try and contribute a bit of code and that code is being shot down, then some people take that very personally. And oftentimes, I wouldn't say the best, the most effective, which could also be a definition of best, a way to resolve the problem, is to refocus on the bug. Because if your code isn't going through in any way, shape, or form, then if you refocus on the issue that caused you to write the fix in the first place, then sometimes the person who's arguing the most passionately against you is arguing the most passionately because they have their own idea of how it could be fixed. And if they're a committer, then maybe that fix could go in and solve your problem. You just need to let go. 5, deploying bots in the community. People here know what bots are. They're little automated bits of software that pester people with messages and aggregate results and try and sometimes you write them to pester people on IRC channels. Sometimes it's to email developers directly. Sometimes it's to spam the mailing lists. All this does, and I mean all this does, is annoy people who won't help you. And if you pester people enough, you can get banned, which means you don't get the help you're after. Why do people do this? Sometimes people need information. Sometimes they want to contact as many people as possible to try and commit some code. And other times people just do it to annoy people. If you want some information, it can be a lot more effective to talk to people individually. If you talk to 3 people personally, it was like 3.3, I did a statistical analysis thing. If you talk to 3 people personally, you can get better results than if you use a bot to ping 100 people, because all you get is 100 variations on "go away, you stupid bot." To commit code, if you're pestering lots of different people, they won't accept your code, and again, you're just taking steps backwards, and all you're doing is aggravating people, which brings me on to step C. Sometimes people just write these bots to get on people's nerves. If you're the one writing bots to get on people's nerves, get a life. And if you're the one being pestered by these bots, the best advice I have is the advice that other people have given me, which is ignore them and maybe they'll get bored and go away. And here's the summary. So my advice is, do try and write the code yourself if you can. Do allow your commits to evolve. Do try and stay calm. Take a moment out if you feel yourself getting wound up. Don't deploy bots. Don't insult people. Don't deploy bots that insult people. And don't propose large changes at the start. Take your time, small fixes, typos at the start, make your way up. And that's the end. Thank you all for sitting through my presentation. My name's been Adam Farley. Here's some links to OpenJDK and the binaries. And thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? No? Excellent. All right. Thank you.